I'd like to make an extra point on a video which I recorded yesterday, which was about absurdity. So in that video, I mentioned how we've removed ourselves so much from nature that we are unable to connect nature to the grander movements of the universe. As a result of this, nature becomes quickly semanticized, and we begin to see it as absurd. As a result of that, again, we become further disconnected from nature, and we end up building a sort of a malicious society, which replaces the values which we had in the past. Because something needs to fill the gap, essentially. But in this video, I'd like to talk about how the over-sensitization to physicality in modern society has affected our interpretations and our appreciations of the aesthetics. So, the aesthetics are, those artistic and poetic understandings of the world around us, and particularly the physical world around us. So, of course, the most obvious and oldest aesthetic appreciation would be that of nature. But now that we see nature as absurd, we've become disconnected from it, and our appreciations of the aesthetics no longer fall within the boundary of the natural. Instead, it is the unnatural, which is the source for our aesthetic appreciation. Now, before I go into the main point, I'd like to just talk about the value of aesthetics and the consequences. So, aesthetic appreciation is, on a subconscious level, it's the result of the contributing factor to many of our desires and our impulses. It gives us soul, in that in addition to all of the animal impulses that we have, our aesthetic understanding of the world around us, which is an essential part of our consciousness, is what makes us human beings, and it gives us a culture. Now, when nature is removed from our aesthetic appreciation, instead we have, if you look at art today, you'll see in modern art, it's associated around, a city life and industrial life, and even if you look at something like agriculture, again, this is part of the modern world, and it's a modern lifestyle. There are no scenes without the man-made, the artificial, as part of it. It's how we romanticize our environment. Is now we romanticize an industrial environment rather than a wild, untamed environment, as in the past. So that's the artistic side of things. The second side of things is the heroic. So the archetypes of the heroes in the past, although they share all the same characteristics as modern heroes, except today it's more mundane, more earthly. There's less contingency to the eternal. The heroic archetypes today are contradictory to in the past, where the hero would do his heroic deeds outside of the society. Today, the hero of today acts within society. So, the ideal archetypes which men and women have today would be successful businessmen, businesswomen, it would be celebrities, it would be, rock stars, things like that. And these are for both men and women. These are the goal, that's the hero. It's someone who does his heroic deeds in the society itself, who climbs through the society rather than escaping the society to do heroic deeds in nature itself. This says something quite potent and quite elucidating. which is that we see the great dragons of today, the great eternal struggles, the great stepping stones towards greater conquests and bettering ourselves and becoming, essentially, as facets of the society we've created itself. Subconsciously, we see the society itself as our enemy, as a challenge which needs to be overcome. But we take from this a nature of where our deeds which we need to accomplish, our feats, our challenges, must take place in the society itself, and so we become trapped because we are again removed from the heroic archetypes of old. And the third I wanted to mention was the psychological. So, without going all Sigmund Freud on this one, I think it's very obvious when you look at, for example, homosexuals or degenerates of some kind, that it is these were always very aesthetic people, but now that their aestheticism has been removed from the natural world, it's they become hypersensitized, and that's why we have more homosexuals and whatnot today, because how a homosexual is created is when conquest and challenge and physical activity becomes seen as repulsive because of their overtly aesthetic appreciation of the world. And so this removal from masculinity eventually leads them to sexualize masculinity. Now, that's an obvious example, homosexuals, but I think promiscuous people and even in a non-sexual way, if you look at just hedonists and degenerates today, their weakness and their attractedness to certain things, goddamn church bells, is a result of their aesthetic appreciation. So when that aesthetic appreciation is drawn towards the social and towards the city and towards the artificial, then this leads to a hyper-physicalization, and that creates again the way in which they live, those degenerates. So if you look at artwork today, no longer will you see landscapes and wilderness romanticized, but you begin to see the city and the grey and that sort of lifestyle as romanticized. A beautiful building will replace a beautiful mountain or tree or whatnot. A beautiful farmland will replace a beautiful open prairie. It's a change which has huge consequences on a social level, because it means got these fucking insects. Excuse me. It means that we as a society no longer value the preservation of wilderness. I'll make another video where I talk about the various contributing factors to our rejection of wilderness and our fetishization of civilization, how this came to be and its consequences. And there are pretty much 4 different points I'm going to make in that video, but again, that's a video for another time. Well, hope you find this interesting. Right.